Astonishing and unprecedented is how a legal analyst has characterized the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, executing a search warrant at the home of former United States President Donald Trump. Now, the search was first confirmed in a statement issued by the former president, who said that his beautiful home was under siege and occupied by a large group of FBI agents. Trump didn't disclose why the raid took place, and the Justice Department doesn't comment on ongoing investigations, but widespread reporting points to this being part of an investigation into its handling of presidential documents that might have been illegally removed from the White House to his private residence, which is a federal crime in terms of the Presidential Records Act.
My perspective is that it's astonishing. It's really astonishing, but it is also unprecedented. And it is astonishing because it is unprecedented, but it is inevitable almost if one thinks about the various inquiries being made at the moment about the president and particularly the presidential records. So I think the fact that the FBI has gone in to the president's Florida home suggests that they have, clear evidence that a crime may have been committed and that they, in doing the search, they will find something. So I think to answer your question, it's astonishing, but I think inevitable.
Well, for more on this, we're now joined by our New York correspondent, Sherwin Bryce-Pease. Sherwin, the words astonishing are being used to describe this raid by the FBI. How much do we know about why?
When you talk about Donald Trump, astonishing might apply, Peter, but not necessarily inevitable. But certainly the indications from this action from the FBI that has been signed off by the Attorney General and a federal judge. Remember, a search warrant executed in this nature, given the status of the individual being pursued here, the former president of the United States, the former president's private residential property being invaded essentially by FBI agents. This is certainly uncharted waters in many ways. Certainly the first time a private residence of a former president has been searched in this way. And we understand, Peter, certainly from widespread reporting in this country, that this has to do with Donald Trump removing 15 boxes of documents from the White House when he vacated office and Joe Biden was moving in. The Presidential Records Act states the following. It requires all memos, letters, emails, and other documents related to the president's duties to be preserved and to be given to the National Archives. We understand there has been a months-long engagement between the National Archives and the former president's office. We understand a lot of those documents were retrieved. So it begs the question as to what the FBI believes they were going to find at the Mar-a-Lago residence. Remember, there has to be probable cause. In the search warrant that would have been presented to a judge, they would have to present a probable cause that a crime might have been committed. They will also have to present evidence to the judge that says that we expect some documents to be found at this location. That's why the federal judge then signs off on this. I asked Professor Penelope Andrews of New York Law School about the very high bar that would need to be set here by the Justice Department in terms of obtaining this search warrant. This is what she said. Watch.
I think that it's important to remember that two branches of government were involved in the search. So the executive through the Justice Department and the Attorney General signing off on this. Merrick Garland clearly, signed off on this. So you have the executive as well as the judiciary. And the FBI would have needed to go to a judge to persuade the judge that it is compelling that they go and do a search. They would also have very specific pieces of evidence that they needed to persuade a judge to grant the warrant. So I do think that the fact that, two branches of government essentially were involved in this, that there is definitely, lots of smoke, and there clearly is a fire.
So, Peter, going back to your question, what's this about? It speaks to the legal web of cases that surround the former president and his inner circle. The New York Attorney General is, of course, investigating his tax affairs as it relates to the possible inflation of properties in terms of getting tax deductions. There's a Georgia prosecutor investigating possible interference. Remember that call he made to the Secretary of State in Georgia asking him to find the votes. There's an investigation underway there. Of course, the January 6th committee hearings are continuing into the insurrection, what led to that insurrection on January 6th, and getting closer to the very inner circle of the former president. So there are many, many legal tentacles that the Trump inner circle is currently dealing with. This one specifically relating to the removal of presidential records that should have been given to the National Archives to the private residence of the former president. And we understand that this includes top secret and classified documents that should not have been in his possession. So that's certainly where we find ourselves today, Peter.
Do we know if they've actually taken stuff away from the house? Were any boxes actually taken away?
Reporting suggests that the FBI did not leave empty-handed. We understand that some 30 FBI agents were on the sprawling property Mar-a-Lago. We understand that Mar-a-Lago is closed for the summer. The president himself, the former president, was not at Mar-a-Lago in Florida. Of course, you'll remember, Peter, he famously changed his address to Florida from New York City, but happened to be in New York City when this search warrant was executed. We understand because he is about to be deposed by the New York State Attorney General into her tax fraud probe into his business dealings. The president, of course, issuing a lengthy statement. Remember, this news surfaced because Donald Trump issued a statement about the search warrant. He called it, he said, "These are dark times for our nation at my beautiful home, Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida. It's under siege, raided and occupied by a large group of FBI agents." He called it the political persecution of President Donald J. Trump that has been ongoing for years. He referred to the debunked Russia impeachment hoax. And he also says, "I stood up to America's bureaucratic corruption. I restored power to the people and truly delivered for our country like we've never seen before," referring also to this, Peter, as a witch hunt. So certainly a political rhetoric that we've heard from this president before, that has stood accused before, right? There were two impeachment hearings. Donald Trump has been in and out of court all his life, calling this a political witch hunt. And we are beginning to see, Peter, that this is starting to be echoed by the leadership of the Republican Party. Kevin McCarthy, the leader of the Republican caucus in the House of Representatives, tweeting this immediately after the revelation of this search warrant was executed. Quote, "I've seen enough. The Department of Justice has reached an intolerable state of weaponized politicization. When Republicans take back the House, we will conduct immediate oversight of this department, follow the facts, and leave no stone unturned. Attorney General Garland, preserve your documents and clear your calendar." So the posture, certainly from certain elements within the Republican Party, is that this has been politicized. We do understand the White House was not aware that this FBI raid was underway until it was happening. And we are hearing, even from Democratic quarters, the former governor of New York City, Andrew Cuomo, tweeting a short time ago that it is now incumbent on the Justice Department to come forward and say what it is they have found and what preceded this raid, given the potential crime that they believe might have happened here, given the fact that a federal judge signed off on this search warrant. So there's a greater deal of clarity required from the Justice Department, given the political nature of the person you're dealing with here. You know, Donald Trump saying that this is a witch hunt perpetrated by radical left Democrats who don't want him to run for president again in 2024. So the political overtures here are very, very clear. It's going to be interesting to see how the Justice Department broaches that, Peter, in the days ahead.
All right. I mean, there are many diehards still supporting Donald Trump, even at this late stage in the game. I see that the Florida Senator Marco Rubio said, "Using government power to persecute political opponents is something we've seen in many times from third world Marxist dictatorships." So there are some people who still feel Donald Trump is someone they still need to stay close to.
And the third world being dragged in the process, Peter. Look, let me tell you a little bit about who is in charge of the Justice Department. Merrick Garland was nominated to be a Supreme Court justice by former President Barack Obama. Merrick Garland was the nominee that never got a hearing from a Republican-controlled Senate at the time, and that position was left vacant for much of Barack Obama's last year in office. And then, of course, Donald Trump won the next election and was able to nominate the replacement for Samuel Alito, who died while Obama was in office, but could not in 9 months fill that seat due to the Republican majority in the Senate that would not give him a hearing. This is a former president of the appellate division of the D.C. Circuit, which is basically the road to the Supreme Court. He's a very well-respected judge, a very meticulous, carefully, you would have very meticulously and carefully considered the facts here, and then those facts would have had to be signed off by a federal judge. So there's a very high bar that I think has been met here. The details, though, of the search warrant and what they know still, though, has to be revealed to the public, Peter.
All right, a story that is unfolding for sure. Sherwin, thanks very much indeed for that update. That's our New York correspondent, Sherwin Bryce-Pease. Donald Trump's home in Mar-a-Lago has been raided by the US FBI, and he says that such an assault could only take place in broken third world countries.